Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Now I have just returned about a week ago from a 3-week visit to the United States. And I got to say there was a lot of things that I saw visiting the United States that was kind of like reverse culture shock. I forgot about some of the differences between the United States and Thailand. And I was also able to see that the gap has widened between some aspects of the United States and Thailand. So first of all, let me just tell you, this is April 23rd. Here's what the temperature is right now, so you can see we're definitely in the hotter time of the year. And if you're wondering how the smoke is doing, well, this is the time of year that the smoke should be dissipating. However, here is a look in July of the mountain scene that I like to compare it with. And this is what it looks like today. So as you can see, we still have a little ways to go before we have fresh air. So we left from Chiang Mai and flew to Texas. That was our first stop because we wanted to visit our son, grandson, their family, everyone there. And we had a really good visit. The first thing I did notice, though, that I forgot all about as far as the United States goes, is how many lawyer signs there are. They're everywhere. For a lawyer, call this number. They're a lawyer, call this number. I forgot about the Sioux mentality that goes on in the United States. When you're there, living there, you don't notice it because the signs are everywhere. You just grow numb to them. But being here in Thailand, we don't have lawyer signs everywhere, at least not that I'm aware of. And they don't have such a Sioux mentality here in Thailand. But one of the wake-up calls in the reverse culture shock of the United States is you better watch yourself, because obviously everyone's suing everybody apparently. Another thing I noticed is, okay, it's way too expensive in the United States. Now, it was expensive when I left, or at least it was whatever. I didn't realize if it was expensive or not expensive. And yes, I am comparing this, of course, to Thailand. However, when we went to Thailand this time, when we went to the United States this time, it was not during COVID or anything else. So I was expecting the higher prices to come back down again. I was not expecting them to stay. I went into a CVS and asked them why it was almost $3 for one Coke that I was buying there. I think it was a Diet Dr. Pepper, something I couldn't get here in Thailand. And they're like, well, here's what happened, is that COVID hit, the prices went up, and then when COVID left, the prices stayed the same. So they were blaming greed as the problem, but I noticed this everywhere. The prices for everything are absolutely ridiculous, which makes me say to you living in the United States, I thought 3 years ago things would be a lot better for you here in Thailand as far as cost goes, because everything is so much cheaper here in Thailand. Well, now that you're used to these ridiculous prices in the United States, it only makes Thailand look that much better. The prices I paid for meals and everything else, I was just sickened by. It was ridiculous because, of course, I'm comparing it with the prices here in Thailand. So I realize now that there's a big reason for you to want to come to Thailand, even bigger than ever, and that is the price difference between the two countries. The gap is widening. As a matter of fact, we sold our house before we moved here to Thailand, and it is now worth $156,000 more than we sold it for 3 years ago. Nothing's changed about the house other than I think there's a new roof on it, but that's it. $156,000 worth more for 3 years. So the housing prices are absolutely ridiculous in the US. This is a big shock. Now, another thing that was a shock, and this is kind of a funny one, is I'm so used to people pumping my gas here in Thailand because that's just what they do. So I pull up to, I think it was a gas station called QT. I pulled up there and sat there for a minute, and it took me a minute to realize nobody's gonna pump my gas for me. I need to get out and do it myself. So that was a little bit of a culture shock. It's something I was disappointed in because, hey, when you get used to people pumping your gas, you definitely don't want to go back the other way. By the way, one of the things we did do when visiting the US, and don't forget something like this once you get established here in Thailand, is our insurances here in Thailand, our health insurance, doesn't cover us in our home country anymore. So what we did is we went and bought travel insurance for our visit into the United States. If you're planning on visiting here in Thailand, make sure you do have travel insurance in case you get in a motorcycle accident, car accident, break your leg, whatever. You're going to be doing a lot of things if you're visiting here to Thailand. So make sure you have that. We do have some recommendations down in the description, so go down there and check those out. Now, of course, one of the bigger shocks is going to be the weather. So it was absolutely, in my opinion, because I live here in Thailand, freezing. I'm sure you wouldn't have thought it was freezing if you're in the US right now, but I thought it was freezing. I think some of the temperatures we were in the 50s and the 60s. Thought I was going to die. The wind was blowing. Anyway, in 3 years, I can definitely tell you, if you're living in Thailand for 3 years, when you do go back to your home country, if it's someplace that gets cold, it doesn't even have to be that cold and you're going to be absolutely freezing. Another thing was understanding people. It was kind of, you don't notice it here in Thailand after a while that, you know, people are talking in Thai really fast and you can't understand what they're saying. Even though I'm learning Thai, they talk so fast, I really have to concentrate to understand what they're saying. Then you get in the US and everybody's speaking English again. It's like, whoa, I know what you just said. So then you start getting nosy and start listening to everybody because you're not used to understanding everyone around you. But you get over that real quick, but it is something you will notice when you go back to your home country after a while from living here in Thailand. The food portion size, I couldn't get used to how big of a portion size at US restaurants, how big they were. There's enough, in my opinion, for 2 people with 1 meal. And when I lived in the US, I wouldn't have thought a thing about the portion size. As a matter of fact, I'd have probably looked at it and said, is this it? However, when you compare the portion size over here, and once you get used to it, going back to the US portion size, it seems like you're eating like a doggone pig. So I will say that I had a lot of food left over, and so did my wife everywhere we ate in the United States. Now, bringing up restaurants, another thing that we really forgot we weren't used to is drink refills. The waitress kept bringing more drink to us. Here in Thailand, you run out of a drink for the most part, and you're gonna need to buy another one. So that was really nice, and there was a big difference. This is definitely in the US's favor for the quality of service you get with the waiter or waitress. In the United States, it's second to none. I don't care where you go in the world. The US has got really good servers, and they do demand a tip, so that may be the downfall. However, here in Thailand, you don't have that kind of service. I did find it kind of annoying in the US where they kept coming to you every like 2 minutes. Is there anything I can get you? Is there anything I can get you? I'm thinking, what is wrong with you? No, there's nothing you can get me. Go away. But I do appreciate that they do that, because here in Thailand, if you want something, let's say after you've already received your meal, you better wave them down. Otherwise, they're not going to bother you, which is also a plus. Now the driving, of course, I've got to mention the driving. First thing I notice, other than now I'm driving on the right-hand side of the road again instead of the left, and my brain had to totally change itself again, and that is the lack of motorcycles everywhere. So I'm so used to dodging motorcycles and checking everywhere that you really shouldn't have to check for motorcycles to make sure I'm not going to kill somebody. So that was nice, but I also missed riding my motorcycle, and I know they don't have such a good motorcycle riding culture in the US as they do in Thailand, but that was a big change. The other thing was the speed that I was able to travel. So here in Thailand, 80 kilometers per hour, 90 kilometers per hour seems to be the norm. Flipping over to miles per hour in the United States, we can go a lot faster there. So I was reaching speeds as of 70 miles per hour, and it felt like I was going too fast, like my face was going to peel off because we were going so fast. So getting used to the speeds is another thing. And by the way, do you hear that sound in the background? That's the cicadas. They always come out this time of year, and they're loud. Parking was another thing that was a nice change in the United States. If you go to a restaurant or any other business, they got plenty of parking. Something, depending on where you're at in Thailand, you don't have much of. A lot of times, at least where I'm at in Chiang Mai, you really have to work to find a parking space, and it may be a long way from your final destination, which means you're gonna have to walk a little bit. But oh well, that's part of keeping the weight off you here in Thailand, is you're going to get outside in this weather and you're going to walk more. Also, while we're talking about cars and parking and traffic and all that thing, are cops. So here in Thailand, I'm used to only seeing police at police checkpoints, and that's about the long and short of it right there. I forgot about all the cops that are hiding everywhere in cars that aren't even marked, just looking to bust you for something. I really needed to watch my driving skills because, of course, I'm driving in the United States like I'm still in Thailand. So I really had to back it down and keep reminding myself that the police are everywhere and they will pull you over. And I surely didn't want any legal problems just visiting the United States. And the last thing I would say that was a big difference is going to be the air quality, especially this time of year. Coming back to Chiang Mai, we went through a cloud of nasty, dirty air straight down to the runway, and then I'm looking up and I'm like, well, here's the bad air again, where in the United States, it was good air everywhere we went, so I kind of missed that. So anyway, sorry I haven't had a whole lot of videos here in the last month. Like I said, 3 weeks we were in the United States, then we came back, it was Songkran, so I did one video with my GoPro because everyone's splashing water, and then I had to wait a week. But that's all I have for you. There's more episodes to come real soon, so thank you everyone for watching. If you feel so inclined, buy us a coffee. There's a link down in the description if you're planning on coming to Thailand. We've got a lot of videos. Look on our channel about either moving or just visiting Thailand. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. Until next time, I'm going to end this by saying thank you in Thai, which is Khap Khun Khap.